The World Wildlife Fund's 2022 Living Planet report stated that global wildlife populations have decreased by 69% on average since 1970. Nowadays there are more than 41,000 species on the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, Red List. Behind these numbers are a lot of animals that are disappearing, resulting in a big effect on our environment. We, humans, are the main part of that problem. For example, climate change, led by human activities, is causing a lot of trouble and contributing to making the threatened species list grow. In this article we will explore the conservation of wildlife, why it's key to protecting our lives and our environment, and how we can make a significant change with pretty small actions. Wildlife conservation is about protecting and preserving animals, plants, and their habitats. If we do so with the current species that live on Earth, we'll be making sure that they have an environment in which to thrive. Wildlife protection is on us. Let's see why. The human population has been growing exponentially over the past 200 years. This growth means that we need more resources to live, from houses to energy. In getting some of the things we need to live, we generate greenhouse gases that contribute significantly to climate change and global warming. These factors directly affect the environments where animals and plants live. One common effect is that plants and animals are displaced and, as you can imagine, this has a great impact on their life cycle. Plus, there are other human actions that put them in danger: habitat change, pollution, poaching, fishing, and hunting are just some of them. Understanding how human behavior affects the environment is the first step to comprehending what we can do to help with the conservation of plants and animals. The second one is understanding how both animal and plant species interact within their ecosystems. Wildlife plays a role in medicine too. It does this in two ways. The first one is connected to plants being a source of medications. Therefore, wildlife preservation turns out to be essential for medicinal research and even helps pharmaceutical industries ensure their long-term viability. The other way is related to pandemic prevention. We experienced one not too long ago. The truth is that protecting wildlife and its environments helps reduce the chances of diseases spreading from animals to humans, zoonosis. Note that animals are accountable for 60% of infectious diseases. Wildlife preservation is key for agriculture and farming. There are at least two processes in which wildlife helps agriculture and farming stay balanced. Let's start with the first one, pollination. Pollination is essential for the production of fruits and vegetables because plants produce them thanks to that process. Pollen grains from male flowers are transferred to female flowers. The result is the generation of fruits that contain seeds. Wildlife has more to do with this because, besides the wind pollination, birds, bats, bees, and other insects are the ones that take those pollen grains from male flowers to female flowers for many species. Plus, wildlife is key in other processes too, soil fertility and health, thanks to the fact that animal dung and urine in the soil boost it with minerals. This ends up in soil being much richer in nutrients. They can even help with nutrient flow in other ways. For example, hippo grazing in grasslands at night puts nutrients into the river through their dung, and this increases plants, algae, and fish productivity. But too many hippos and nutrients might lead to water eutrophication, which in turn can deteriorate water quality and deplete dissolved oxygen in water bodies. This example highlights that single-species preservation might be bad for the environment and that the preservation of balanced species communities is important. Wildlife protection helps with job creation. Just in the U.S. alone, conservation and parks development generate more jobs than oil and gas. We can add another example to that one. A large conservation and sustainable management project in Honduras created over 8,000 jobs and increased community income levels by more than 300%. So when it comes to countries' economies, wildlife can truly help too. Wildlife has cultural significance. From religious beliefs to food, animals and plants have always influenced human culture. For example, sage is considered an essential herb for religious ceremonies. Plus, many regional dishes are made from ingredients that can be found in certain places. They all collaborate with the preservation of memories and traditions while strengthening the relationship between the members of a community. Therefore, protecting wildlife is a way of protecting our culture and our traditions. Top 12 Ways to Protect Threatened Species. You don't need to run a conservation center to help protect wildlife. Just like we've seen, small actions can be taken to help reduce climate change, and the same is true for the conservation of wildlife. We've selected 10 top ways you can lend a hand in the conservation of forests and wildlife. Let's explore each of them. Taking care of wildlife is taking care of our planet. We're losing wildlife at an alarming rate. Preserving wildlife is key to preserving life on Earth. Therefore, we should act every day to do so by making the conservation of wildlife part of our daily routine. There's also a need to spark a conversation about this situation with our families and friends, so we make sure they join us on this. Some birds fly to get to new places, bears hibernate during certain seasons, and flowers bloom in spring. They do everything in their ecosystems. One thing before we move on. It's pretty cool that there's a name to call the study of how the biological world times these routines, phenology. Now let's continue. Plants and animals' life cycles are in accordance with various elements such as temperature, precipitation and sunlight. Plus, plants and animals harness predictable yearly climate variations to know when they should hibernate, get food, migrate or bloom. With that being said, it's easy to see how climate change and global warming significantly affect their lives, and that of plant species. It completely changes the timing of wildlife natural events. Flowers can bloom earlier, birds can fly from their wintering grounds earlier, among other effects. Scientists say that studying phenology is key to better understanding the approach that we should all take when thinking about the conservation of wildlife. Why? Because it's the only way we can fully understand the patterns that animals and plants follow, and how they're following them in certain ecosystems. There are some national and international organizations that are behind wildlife conservation. World Wildlife Fund, Conservation International, the United Nations, and the Wildlife Conservation Society are some of them. Their job is to work side by side with the government to establish and protect public areas such as national parks, as well as helping with legislation writing. A well-known one in the U.S. is the Republic Act 9147 or RA 9147, which focuses on wildlife resources and habitat protection. It also deals with the creation of laws to prosecute wildlife crimes. We also have to say that they support education of wildlife protection in order to explain to the world what's going on and what we can do. But why does this all matter? 5 reasons why wildlife protection is important. Just in case you're wondering why the conservation of wildlife should be a concern for each of us, we've created this list. There are a lot of reasons why it's key to save wildlife, but we have chosen 5 that highlight its importance. Wildlife protection is essential ecosystem balance and, thus, human well-being. Wildlife is key in terms of ecosystem balance. Each living organism plays an important role in an ecosystem. Wildlife protection is of utmost importance for maintaining ecosystem balance and ultimately ensuring human well-being. Ecosystems rely on the intricate interplay between various plant and animal species, where each organism plays a crucial role. By safeguarding wildlife, we preserve biodiversity, which is the foundation of stable ecosystems. Wildlife contributes to pollination, seed dispersal, nutrient cycling, and pest control, all of which directly or indirectly impact human agriculture, food security, and overall ecological health. Furthermore, wildlife provides recreational and cultural value, promoting our connection with nature. Hence, prioritizing wildlife protection is not only a moral imperative but also a practical necessity for sustaining ecosystem services and enhancing our own quality of life. Let's check it out with a well-known example: the food chain. If one organism is endangered or extinct, the entire food chain can be destabilized, and that can put the whole environment at risk. Moreover, the integrity of ecosystems depends on all the locally adapted species. Removal of large mammals, for example, might have profound impacts on plant diversity and distribution. Wildlife plays a role in medicine too. It does this in 2 ways. The first one is connected to plants being a source of medications. Therefore, wildlife preservation turns out to be essential for medicinal research and even helps pharmaceutical industries ensure their long-term viability. The other way is related to pandemic prevention. We experienced one not too long ago. The truth is that protecting wildlife and its environments helps reduce the chances of diseases spreading from animals to humans. Wildlife preservation is key for agriculture and farming. There are at least two processes in which wildlife helps agriculture and farming stay balanced. Let's start with the first one, pollination. Pollination is essential for the production of fruits and vegetables because plants produce them thanks to that process. Pollen grains from male flowers are transferred to female flowers. The result is the generation of fruits that contain seeds. Wildlife has more to do with this because, besides the wind pollination, birds, bats, bees, and other insects are the ones that take those pollen grains from male flowers to female flowers for many species. Getting lost in the jungle can happen when you least expect it. Maybe you wandered off of a trail and got disoriented, or maybe your plane made a crash landing in the middle of the jungle. Either way, your main priorities are to find food and water, build a shelter, and avoid common dangers such as predators. This is a basic overview of what you need to do to survive in the jungle and does not cover all the things you need to do in detail. Be careful when you cross rivers and use a stick for balance. Rivers contain many perils such as slippery rocks and strong currents that can lead to injuries. Choose the shallowest point you can find to cross and avoid crossing anything deeper than knee-deep unless you have to. Keep in mind that rivers and other waters may contain dangerous animals as well. Watch out for things like leeches and larger threats like crocodiles.